But more, I'm saying that a public disagreement, it doesn't matter how many people do the disagreements. In fact, it is healthy for democracy for persons to be able to disagree with rulings and go for free. I have advocated for that. So that the whole or the entirety of the Ghanaian population disagrees with that particular Abronia ruling. There's no reason why this gentleman cannot rise. If instances of corruption or unethical behavior can be raised against him, then there may be a basis. But that you disagree with the ruling. There's no reason why he cannot progress.
But it was unethical behavior.
No. How is that so? There was nothing unethical about it.
Referring to Idi.
There was nothing unethical about it. So you can say that his sources were.
There is a heated banter between Felix Ofosu and the Paradomochi, I just say Enyans and Betua. And the Paradomochi named the Akano or Babontin Pajon Draman Mahama Chelsea. Supreme Court, High Court judges are now or in a call High Court on Omea 37. Mumba could be or Sir John Draman Mahama say on second. Winning film because was set some bad precedent to be to no Paradomochi airtime on same fata so because a High Court Aquaquedi Juma Amagana because when you say we too partisan. Then you can say a president Akufo-Addo Seteno it be happening at the High Court into a corner dear because John Dramani Mahama president say 1 second because already near the can swing in so 1 second no one cutting a fee and no and I feel so for so quite bam catch and say what didn't hoya like near my course or Supreme Court went my mamma casa rulings are hold one or president come man for a city tour a year more go for the government essence near be brave just even grumble some side the court no more review went man can once at the time a year unanimous 7 course on went man can once you are saying say nani penny the bonina saying now 7 judges for ninas where the bonia I don't know about Congress when the bonnie and ne who Cassie and Saki will be ne any answer to I'm going to go see said in commercial channel course.
Sent the nation back and sent the development of democracy back many years. And initially, when the judgment came out, it appeared that MPP, politically exposed lawyers to the MPP were those who were upset with it. And then came people, civil society actors like Oliver Vomaho, who felt that the judgment was not just bad, but such a person should never be on the bench in a democracy. And then Hamza Suhini, who is a member of the NDC legal team, speaking at the forum where Afeni Makin was present, went very far and thought that when he heard the judgment, he was completely shocked that Ghana can still have such judges who are making these kinds of ruling. It was very bizarre and an embarrassment to all of us, to the public and to the judiciary in particular. And it should be an embarrassment to very senior judges. It appeared that people were satisfied that, oh, after all, the guy is gone, he's retired, and okay, it's fine. He's retired as a Court of Appeal judge at age 60, let him go. And then that's ended the matter. The judges swearing in, I hear, was postponed or something like that until yesterday.
Was suspended indefinitely.
Was suspended indefinitely, and then yesterday it came back. Now, when the suspension of indefinite suspension was published, everyone thought that, oh, it is because this judge was originally part of it before the Abronia case, and that's why he's been suspended indefinitely, so that they'll take him out. And in any case, he has retired. But then eyebrows were raised when it turned out that he had actually his name remained on the list, and that he's been elevated to the High Court where they retire at 65, and so he's less than 65, and so by age he's qualified. Many people felt that the discretion that is given to political authority must be looked at, not just in partisan lines, but must be looked at critically. This is building one of the biggest institutions and one of the most important, I should say, the most non-partisan institution in terms of the three arms of government. The executive is partisan, they are elected. The legislature is partisan, they are elected. The judiciary, in some countries, judiciary are elected. In Ghana, we decided that the judiciary should be that pillar that holds the two and holds the balance. And so everyone gets worried when you have judges who appear to have a political lens. In the days of Akufo-Addo, this case of unanimous FC came up, and no less a person than the Minister for National Security, Albert Kandapa, who used to work for Akufo-Addo in the Akufo-Addo's cabinet, even expressed concern that while he thinks that these judgments may not be wrong, the fact that when the cases go and they have a political twist is always 7-0 is discomforting. He doesn't want his government to lose the case in court, but he was discomforted by what people call unanimous FC. And so you see that the Ghanaian person wants the judiciary to remain as that bulwark of democracy, where the partisan considerations are reduced to the barest minimum. Here is a judge who has demonstrated that apart from partisan considerations, he also can get personal sometimes. In this Abronye case, saying to the accused person that people are more equal than others. I mean, that kind of statement should never be made by a judge to an accused person. And a judge who makes this statement is then goes on retirement. He's called back from retirement and elevated to now become a member of the Superior Court of Judicature. That is a worrying signal, a particularly worrying signal. And I don't know how many people advise President Mahama to do this. I'm not sure how many people advise him to do this. And I don't know how many people were pushing for it. I don't know whether the judge himself did not feel that given all the circumstances, he should take a back step, reflect, and then see what the future holds, rather than come back on the bench as a member of the Superior Court of Judicature. I think this is really concerning. I'm guessing that the matter may even show up in the appointments committee hearings of the nominated Chief Justice, Justice Bafoboni. It's something we should all be worried about. Yes, this is democracy. There's MPP, there's NDC. But we really, at the end of the day, want to build a democracy for the future of Ghana. NDC wants to build a democracy. MPP wants to build a democracy. At each point, one time or the other, one person will be in government. And that's what we are operating. And people want people to vote for them. MPP want to dominate, NDC want to dominate. But some of these things, we should leave them out. Now, that's why in the book I talk about the role of the judiciary, how they have been such an important stabilizer to the democracy. Some of the decisions they've given, like 31st December, like the Chachuchi Kata Fast Track High Court case, have helped to stabilize the democracy. Some of those judges who gave the rulings one way or the other may have had sentiments towards this government or that government. Look at the Auditor General issue. Akufo-Addo dismissed the Auditor General, and then the matter went to court, even though it was moot because the Auditor General had already been dismissed. The Supreme Court, that was also given the unanimous 7-0 for Akufo-Addo, held with people like Professor Kote on the bench. People like Professor Kote have a great relationship with Akufo-Addo for many years. But Professor Kote penned down a ruling that said that the president was wrong. You cannot do that. That is how the democracy works. They may have liked Akufo-Addo. Professor Kote may have liked Akufo-Addo, but when he came to rule on whether Akufo-Addo was right in removing Domelevo, he said, no, the president was wrong. So that is what we need. This kind of judgment that comes in this manner, delivered with such dose of heaviness, and every lawyer is upset with it. Every member of the Ghana Bar Association is upset with it. And then what do we hear? Wake up one day, oh, he's been elevated to be a member of the Superior Court of Judicature. My goodness. It is very serious.
But the Judicial Council, I'm sure, would have taken all of this into considerations before proposing him to be.
No, I'm guessing that they may have done that before the Abronye ruling. You see, this list may have been constructed before the Abronye ruling.
So you're saying that they could have reviewed it?
They certainly should. In fact, when they said that it had been suspended indefinitely, everyone applauded that, oh, it's because of the guy. Everyone said, oh, they don't want to take the guy out. Okay. That's why they are doing it, because what he did, really.
So then perhaps.
First of all, there are a few things that we need to straighten. The postponement of the ceremony, which should have taken place sometime last week, I believe, had nothing to do with the involvement of this particular judge. Indeed, the president had to travel to China at very short notice, and therefore there were a raft of activities that he had to reschedule. Indeed, one of them was a tour that he was scheduled to undertake at all state-owned media organizations. I was actually coordinating that. At the last minute, he told me that I had to postpone it because he had to leave. So it had nothing to do with this particular judge. It was just a matter of a clash of schedule. Schedules, I beg your pardon. So that must be placed on record. There was nothing partisan about it. Number two, the allegation that this judge made the Abronye ruling based on some partisanship is most unfounded. In fact, if you read the ruling, he himself reiterated the fact that a similar activist.
No, I'm not saying he made a partisan.
If you let me land. Yeah, but there were hints of accusations of partisanship. Maybe it was inadvertent. That came out clearly. So I needed to.
No, then I don't mean
the judge himself indicated that in previous cases, an NDC activist had been brought before him under similar circumstances, and he rendered a similar judgment. So he himself was keen to establish at the very onset that the ruling had nothing to do with partisanship. I went public to disagree with him. But more, I'm saying that a public disagreement, it doesn't matter how many people do the disagreement. In fact, it is healthy for democracy for persons to be able to disagree with rulings and go scot-free. I have advocated for that. So that the whole or the entirety of the Ghanaian population disagrees with that particular Abronia ruling. There's no reason why this gentleman cannot rise. If instances of corruption or unethical behavior can be raised against him, then there may be a basis. But that you disagree with the ruling, there's no reason why he cannot progress.
But it was unethical behavior.
No. How is that so? There was nothing unethical about it.
Referring to Idi Amin.
There was nothing unethical about it. You can say that his sources were flawed. Why? We have sat in this country and listened to the exalted Supreme Court of this land make the most bizarre ruling in the birth certificate matter. Till that, I cannot wrap my head around how any court can render such a judgment. Indeed, they came under intense criticism. The entirety of the population bashed them for a ruling that they could simply not accept. Because tomorrow, explain to me how, for instance, a birth certificate, and I have seen my children's birth certificate, it clearly states my name, states where I come from, states the mother's name, where she comes from. And therefore, it should leave nobody in doubt about where the child who has been so born comes from. Yet the Supreme Court says this document is invalid and cannot attest to where the child comes from. Except that if you use the same birth certificate to go and obtain a Ghana card, that one shows where you come from. That is the most bizarre ruling. And today, this stands as one of the most unpopular rulings ever made in our history. There are other rulings that we can hold the Supreme Court to. For instance, the one that they did on the 4 MPP MPs who were running independent. When the law is clear, the MPP constitution is very clear that the moment you leave the party to contest against their candidate, you forfeit your membership. It is so clear, it's there in black and white. And there are instances where this has been done. Under Professor Michael Kwe, a similar development happened, and it was upheld. Yet the same Supreme Court said that that clear provision in the MPP constitution should be set aside. People read political meanings into it, that they wanted to prop up the MPP. But I don't think that all the panel members who did that ruling should be denied some progression because we disagree with that particular provision. So I think that we are being too heavy-handed towards this circuit judge. For me, it is not a fatal flaw. That ruling does not in any way seriously threaten the dispensation of justice in this country. What matters most is that at the end of the day, Abronya got his day. He was released on bail, and life continues. So I think that we need to cut this judge some slack. Of course, he then has to be minded to do better and make amends. But I don't think that this premise is sufficient to deny him progression. And certainly, no political consideration has gone into this one. Yeah.
All right. So let's rumble in the jungle.
Sure.
And if we have the movie A Thriller in Malena, it would be nice to watch it for a few minutes before we start this. But
I think he started off as a sports journalist, so he's familiar with the Fraser Ali Babs in Zaire.
1975?
74.
And
It was Foreman. That was in Zaire.
In Congo.
Yeah, in the heydays of Mobutu Sese Seko.
At the height of the Cold War.
Yes. Don King was
Political.
Anyway,
political.
So I want us to look at the government's quest and fight against or to fight corruption and to get persons who have occupied public positions to be accountable. Simplicity. But there are two strands of this. There's one that is being handled by the OSP, and there's one that's being handled by the executive arm of government. Strictly speaking, I'm talking about the Attorney General's department. And we witnessed or we saw or watched the Attorney General when he held a news conference must have been on Wednesday, and updated us on the National Service, some investigations into some acts of impropriety that happened under the tenure of Gift Owari. And also we were told about but prior to that, there was an interview which was held by the Deputy Attorney General, who was responding to some, correspondence which had leaked, on social media, which the Office of the Special Prosecutor was not happy about. And it has to do with the extradition of the former Finance Minister to Ghana and some of the challenges that he faced, and whether the Office of the Attorney General has been supportive of that effort or not. So there's two issues in one, but it all has to do with accountability. Maybe let me start with that of Dominic Ayene and the things that he said and what Felix Ofosu, who speaks for both the president and the government, wants to take away from everything that Dominic Ayene has said. And what is next? Because some persons are saying that he's only conducting a trial by media or media trial, and then really nothing is going to happen. So what are we supposed, what's some of the fine highlights of some of the things that he said? And then also when you're done with that, it will be good to pick your thoughts on the back and forth between the Attorney General's office and that of the OSP. And it has to do with how to bring Ken Ofori-Atta down, whether we need a docket, and whether the Attorney General is actually supporting fully the efforts of the OSP to bring Ken Ofori-Atta down, whether you're one of those also frustrated that look, Ken has not been brought down to Ghana to face the music and so on. So two issues in one. So with the Dominic Ayene one. The special prosecutor one.
That is pretty brief and straightforward. I think that
Felix Ofosu just on the Kasama John Dramani Mahama and I just went to school a year Padomochi Paji or conscience or very hypocrite. Or very hypocrite. And never be bro how car. Only so winning in our son as a person be who say as winning now so winning she. Padomochi me we say although I told us here be 37 high court judges amomako yomajuma. Na ansa krampo na yet bitima sue enkrofo ino I was say be a sue enkrofo na kono omudi can recommend a lot of judges who the judge we by ebeboa who the judge we by ebeboa so yin say President Mahama sorry no akosue be in kwa debi so enkrofo high court judges are not some council for the akose fa judge we free habra the list na komano and the president will look through okay raising time for them run a thousand wajiatum ni payadika aboni din aka wa say sa judge ya wo pese John Dramani Mahama esake ni kofi no sa judge no enetna abronye case so na de you see di abronye case no wo ani anje ho statement be use it was too partisan na wo Padomochi wani anje ho so enunti no on sem fata se oko a high court so se John Dramani Mahama a person amamoni koye at the judiciary said they also all resetting any mana money ma this judge and call high court cause or be kwa kwesen kate boni or be friend katepa e be send resetting nyina so no the judicial panel to John Dramani Mahama because of abronye the way judge is the case no and enya ne fe some ways be use and some fatas we use okay. Since I now work and during a Akufo-Addo time no, she near my course of Supreme Court. It was in camera. It was about life who be TV. Especially when a Bambabin case called a Supreme Court. Say obi or Parliament House. Nasa say or resign. Especially a Akroma relation. Not also resign. Ako independent as independent candidate. On the ticket for that political party. Na constitutional statement clearly say that nipano on timi nsamba Parliament House ensa metina party na also wa resign no a wo free akoye independent on timi mba ya statement clear nyansa wo reason ya teji nyansa wo must there be that case no afenye marking the call a Supreme Court. If you ruling by I'm one of the judge at the Supreme Court can say he is hoping say in the near future and this case besa be no matter say the case in you name the year 2 years. So say all case will be ruling to you na nko yama na say wo ntino Say nipa no here progression. Any award be as a demand yen honey and farmer because ruling be angry amount there. And then go form with a case I hold Supreme Court about this case in Indiana. Ghana forecast I deal with the Cabrofu de Kimuda, King Yanchi Chimubiano. The majority of Ghanaians can say ruling with the Echitrian Sokaka. Society dear, say ruling be unqueer. Ameni pebi mwa. Sa microphone nyina ne betime yi omadi. Se judge be ruling me na anko in favor. Ama obi na se nipa krono and the Plea Akroma the presidency a. E betime yi judge na di. So anytime be na was ruling in favor of some people na say the whole Ghana. Akroma obi a. Na say meda yi Supreme Court prayer and Akufo-Addo can say birth certificate ukuta no nche so ye Ghana ni na imom so we use birth certificate no e dey fill forms on the Ghana card and nche so ye Ghana ni wow jina nche no ti case bi si no like wow because under the Ghana card you are using the same details or birth certificate the same thing and how they fill Ghana card no so e ba na say na ukuta the primary document now say eno nche so ye Ghana ni so all these rulings are also what say no the normal now we they are going in favor of a brilliant no in judging the Felix Ofosu kwacha blasting here or gunanima see on live TV at say enya asembeto yet nsame hu niema ibitima charge under the comment section so subscribe subscribe like it let's share money so dey nya binti